first down. They hand off to Marlon Mack. Huge hole, 50-yard line. He's at the 40, still going near sideline. He's at the 10. He's at the 5, and he will score. Touchdown, Marlon Mack. Touchdown, I-N-D-Y. And again, it's picked up. It's Darius Leonard. Leonard with his second INT, and he's streaking down the near sideline. He's at the 40. He's at the 30. He's at the 20. He's going to go. A pick six for the Maniac.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
What is up, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Juice podcast. Today, we're going to be breaking down some key takeaways and things that we're learning about the Colts through weeks 1 and 2. Obviously, the Colts just came off of a win against the Vikings, the first win of the season, so they are 1-1. Some things to mention here, and I'll tell you guys right off the bat, there's obviously a lot more things we could talk about here. Just too much for one video, honestly. I probably won't even mention Mo Alley Cox because we'll probably mention him in a video later. Some key individual performances we might make for future videos. But don't worry, we're going to talk about those here a little bit later on. But just as a generality of some things that we've been able to take away from these first 2 weeks, let's just kind of hop into it. The first thing that we were taking away, and it was more evident this week, was that the defense has the talent to perform the way we want them to. They just need to find their mojo, and they need to keep improving. And they did that this week. Obviously, in week 1, we had the defense just looking lost half the time, right? They looked lost. The secondary had very few ideas where they were going. The defensive line got pressure, but they weren't consistent about it. And, you know, everybody kind of just mentioned it. We gotta be more accountable. We gotta do more. You know, that's on us. Just making sure we do better to make this team ready and to make sure this defense runs the way it does. And that's right. And they were right about it. And they went and did that. And Eberflus obviously took that to heart, I'm sure. And ultimately this week, whatever these guys did to make themselves better in week 2, they absolutely did it. And I don't even care what you say about the Minnesota Vikings. I don't care if you think they stink. I don't care. They put up 34 points against the Green Bay Packers, okay? They also have a decent quarterback in Kirk Cousins that can play. He's been trash a bunch of times, but he can still play, okay? They obviously have Adam Thielen, who's a really good wide receiver. Dalvin Cook, who's one of the best running backs in the league. And this defense did everything right this week to make it so that they had no problem getting the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands quickly. This defensive line, of all things, getting consistent pressure from everywhere. Not even just from the starters, but they also got it from young guys in the depth pieces like Tyquan Lewis, Al-Qadim Muhammad, guys like that were wondering how are they going to step up or how are they going to provide the depth. Well, Tyquan Lewis got a sack. Good to see that from him. And, you know, seeing other guys do it. And DeForest Buckner, of all people, stepping up and hitting the quarterback 7 times in that game. Okay? And not to mention it was from everyone. Everyone had good pressure days. They were really getting Kirk Cousins rattled. They were making him get rid of the ball so in much worse positions than what he wanted to. That offensive line was not able to protect him well that game. And not to mention the run defense. The run defensive line. The defensive line did a really good job of clogging up a lot of holes. The interior of the defensive line were pushing back the Vikings into the backfield, and it was causing Dalvin Cook to not be able to get a full head of steam going into the hole. And not to mention Darius Leonard and Bobby Okereke and Anthony Walker had good days of filling up holes. The linebacker core did a really good job. Bobby Okereke out-snapped Walker by a decent amount. I think you could probably, again, continue to see more of that because of what he potentially brings to the pass game and just how much quicker he is. But obviously, Walker's still going to be there. And then you can just talk about the secondary. I mean, good Lord, they looked like a whole different secondary. this time, and with the addition of a Julian Blackmon they brought in. We're going to talk about him in a later video or later on in this video for sure. But guys just taking advantage of miscues that Minnesota did. 3 interceptions. I mean, the Colts are actually tied in first place for most interceptions in the league right now because of that. And here's what's ironic, guys. Here's what's ironic about this whole spiel. The Colts actually are number 9 in overall offense. We're going to talk about the offense in a minute. They're number 9 in overall offense when it comes to yardage. Okay, so yeah, they're about average at best when it comes to touchdowns scored at the moment, like when it comes to the rest of the NFL. But yardage-wise, they're top 10. They're getting yards, so they're doing well. Not to mention the defense is number 1 overall right now in total overall defense right now. I know, it's kind of ironic to say that given, what we saw in week 1 with Jacksonville and what we just saw in week 2, obviously. But the Colts have only been giving up about 215 yards a game for the first 2 weeks of total offense through the first 2 weeks. Now, I understand obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars are not an explosive offense. I get that. But the Jaguars did just put up 30 against Tennessee Titans, so that we know the Jaguars can score. And, I mean, the Minnesota Vikings obviously have the potential to go off any given Sunday when it comes to their offense. So the next best team when it comes to yardage per game, yards given up this year, is the Baltimore Ravens in second, and they have given up over 200 more yards of offense than what we'd have in the first 2 weeks. So, say what you want about the overall defensive performance. Yards-wise, we are keeping ourselves in games by not allowing giant plays, and it's showing, and that's a great thing to see from the defense. Now, let's go away from the defense here, and let's kind of go to this offense. Another takeaway that we've seen is finding the correct balance with this offense, right? We saw in week 1 too much passing, right? There wasn't enough runs. Obviously, Marlon Mack went down. That kind of probably had a little bit to do with it. But this week, they did exactly what we thought they were going to do, and it's exactly what we wanted them to do, is that we wanted them to run the ball 35 times in a game and make it that way. And then that way, Phillip Rivers doesn't have to throw the ball 46 times. He obviously did it in week 1, and we saw where that went out. But this week, finding Jonathan Taylor, being able to run the ball for 25 times and 100 yards, really good of him. And Jordan Wilkins coming in and doing what he did. And here's the thing, too. Jordan Wilkins and Nyheim Hines only touched the ball about 10 times this last week. It's good to see Wilkins getting some snaps, but the Colts really need to get more snaps from Jordan Wilkins. They need to get more from him because Jordan Wilkins in 9 carries had 45 yards. Almost 45 yards. He had 40 yards. So 4.5 yards a carry almost. I mean, Jordan Wilkins needs to continue to be more a part of this offense. And I didn't say go away from Nyheim Hines. I want Hines to have some runs, an occasional run. But you also want to try to get him involved in the passing game as well because Nyheim Hines is a guy that you can use that advantage on. And especially since we know Paris Campbell's going to miss some time. So you got to use Nyheim Hines. I'm not saying to take away carries from Nyheim Hines. I'm just saying put him into something you know you can use him more of in the passing game. And Wilkins needs to get a couple more snaps. I like the idea that Jonathan Taylor had 25 rushes. He maintained the majority of the rushes in the first half and a few in the second half until Wilkins finally came in. And Wilkins was the premier back, moving the chains because he was fresh. He wasn't being used. So that's great that the Colts were able to find some continuity there. So find some more continuity for the running backs. Let's hope they continue to keep finding that right combo. And then this offense in the passing game. Hilton's still having some issues, but I really like what I'm seeing from the rest of the guys. Michael Pittman, and that's another thing we're going to be talking about, the rookies here in a minute. Michael Pittman making some plays. Zach Pascal making a couple. Mo Alley Cox, of all things, looking like a tight end 1. Looking like the guy. I mean, it's really great to see. We're probably going to mention him later on, but I mean, it's all about finding the balance, right? The Colts did that this week much better and more effectively this time around than what they did in week 1. So that's a great thing to see. I hope they continue to do that. And then number 3, third biggest takeaway, rookies vastly improved this week. Vastly improved. Week 1, we can talk about, Michael Pittman had 2 catches in week 1. This week he doubled that. And he had doubled his catches and tripled his yards. So Michael Pittman did get more involved this week. I think he could do more, but he did get more involved this week, and it's good to see that. And then Jonathan Taylor, he had some rushes last week, but outside of one screen that went really well for him, there really wasn't much else that he did, So, and then Julian Blackmon, we didn't see him in week 1, and now all of a sudden week 2, he comes in because Malik Hooker's gone, and he steps up, makes huge plays. Had 2 tackles, a big hit that caused an incompletion on Irvin, and also a tip pass that was going to, I don't remember who the receiver was. I think it was either Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen, and then ends up having Corey Willis pick it off. So Blackmon going out there and making plays right away. He just looks like, this does not look like a football player that tore his ACL in December and is here now. It doesn't look like that to me. Especially with as good as he looked in and being able to play in pass coverage and run up and make tackles. That just doesn't seem like that. So it's really great to see from him there. Outside of that, there's not been a lot more going on, but those big rookies stepping up and making plays this week. That is great. That's great to see. And, and I think the last takeaway we can go into here is continuing to clean up penalties and be more efficient in the red zone and third downs. Obviously, the Colts this week had 9 penalties. Last week, I think they only had 2. The penalties I'm not too worried about because this week in total with penalties across the league, penalties were up tremendously across all teams in the NFL. Holding penalties were actually down like 80% in week 1. It's almost like the refs were meeting a quota or something. I don't know, but I don't want to talk crap about them. But either way, yeah, just continuing to clean up some of the penalties, And Michael Pittman had a couple on him yesterday. He's going to have to get better at that with blocking in the back. But that first one that he got was trash. I don't even agree with that one at all. But the second one, yes. That's the good in the bag you're going to get from Michael Pittman. There's a reason Michael Pittman and Zach Pascal are getting a few more snaps right now than what T.Y. Hilton is right now, because Michael Pittman and Zach Pascal are your best run-blocking wide receivers. They are really good at run blocking. And when you have that mentality, sometimes you're going to have a few of those. And I get it. And Pittman, they're going to obviously, that's the first thing that they're going to mention to Pittman this week is you can't let that happen. You can't. So it's fine. I don't really think that, the Colts are in penalty trouble. I think they're going to continue to get better as the season goes along. But one thing they absolutely have to continue to get better at is being more efficient in the red zone and third down percentage. The Colts are one of the worst teams right now in regards to red zone efficiency at the start of the season. That once we start getting into some tougher competition midway through the season, that's going to be rough, and that's going to be difficult to capitalize on because, if you can't do it now against defenses that, are considered suspect, I don't know how they're going to do it against better defenses. They're going to have to – I think it's going to get better as the playbook starts opening up and as these guys start to get better and more confident in themselves. But yeah, they need to get better in the red zone. You have to start converting more touchdowns and not settling for field goals. Obviously, field goals are nice, but touchdowns are way better. And third down percentage, I think the Colts are like 6th worst in the NFL right now in converting third down. So they're going to have to do better, right? And that's just something that's just going to have to get I think that's still on play calling a little bit from Frank Reich's perspective and Sirianni's perspective, and it's also, again, just execution. It's not been fixed yet, guys, but I think it's going to continue to get better, hopefully, as the season goes along and they get more progressive. And like I said, there's a lot more other things I could take away from this season so far, but we're probably going to hold off on a little bit. But, guys, we're going into a stretch of the schedule here where the Colts really need to step it up here. They're going to face the Jets at home. They're going to Chicago. They're going to play at Cleveland, and then they're playing at home again against the Bengals. A very winnable part of the schedule here. Where, again, the 1-0 mentality, I like it. It's something they need to absolutely do. But, you have to continue to look forward, and I hope this team's ready to go because, any of these games can be trap games. We saw that against Jacksonville. Maybe that will remind the Colts that, we thought this one we had, and we didn't perform well, and then ultimately we saw what happened. So let's just see what we go from here, guys. But those are 4 takeaways from this week and this last week 1 and 2 of the Indianapolis Colts season. Let us know what you think, guys. Do you think these takeaways are something we're going to continue to improve on? Is there any other takeaways that you would give us that you think would be better? And what do you think we should talk about next? So thank you guys so much. And as always, go Colts.